everyone and welcome. This video is going to be my December wrap-up, going over all of the books that I read in the month of December. And I actually did finish my entire December TBR. There was only 4 books on it, but I still finished it, so I am happy about that. And I ended up reading 6 books this month, which is one more than I have read in all of my other wrap-ups, I believe. And then there's a 50-page novella in here as well, so I mean 7 if you want to count that, but I didn't count that in the total. But I will be briefly talking about it. But December was a pretty good reading month for me. I was really happy with most of what I read. So let's just get started with the first book, which is going to be Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. And this one was 4.75 stars for me, so I really enjoyed this. But it just wasn't quite a 5-star. And in this one we are following Odessa, who is a princess, and her sister is meant to be the Sparrow, which is a princess that is married off to another kingdom as part of a treaty. And Odessa's sister has been training her entire life to be the Sparrow, and Odessa has not. And then the prince shows up and decides that he wants to marry Odessa instead, so she has to become the Sparrow. And like I said, I had a really good time with this one. The monsters that were in this one were probably my favorite part. I really enjoy monsters in my books. They add a lot of great tension to whatever else we already have going on. I really liked the main character, Odessa. I liked watching her journey and kind of seeing her learn how to play this role of the Sparrow. And it felt more realistic to me, her journey. It didn't feel quite so like she just woke up and one day she was just the best at everything, like we kind of see a lot in these type of stories. But I will say, one of the things that probably kept this from being a 5-star for me were all of her questions. She asks a ton of questions. That's one of her traits, I guess. She says it, that she just constantly is asking questions. And it gets annoying after a while, and it kind of just feels like an easy way for the author to throw information out there. And it wasn't enough to ruin the book or anything for me, but it does get a bit annoying. I liked the Guardian. I hope we're going to get to know him better. The romance in this was a good slow burn with good yearning. There were also some good side characters that I'm hoping we're going to get to see more of. I also want to see more of this magic system. I feel like it could be really interesting, but haven't really seen a ton of it yet, so I'm hoping to learn more about that. I enjoyed the world building in this and learning about how their history has kind of created these treaties and these circumstances that they are in. I thought the pacing was really good in this one. Like I said, the monsters add great tension. So even in the slower moments, there's always this question of if the monsters are going to cause trouble. Most of my predictions for this one did end up being wrong, at least so far. They could still happen, I suppose. But it took some interesting turns that I didn't see coming, so I had a lot of fun. I believe the next book is out in April, so I am really excited. I am definitely going to be continuing on in this series. Alright, so the second book I read was The Thrashers by Julie Soto, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And this is a YA thriller, and in this one we are following Jody, who is a part of the popular crowd at her high school, and they are called the Thrashers. And then one night, a girl who is trying to befriend the Thrashers and become a part of the group ends up taking her own life, and then the Thrashers are pulled into the police investigation. And I really enjoyed this one as well. I do think I would have liked it even more when I was in high school, just because it does talk a lot about cliques and popularity, bullying, things that I feel would have been more relatable when I was younger. But the plot was definitely still really entertaining regardless. I still had a good time. I felt like there was great tension throughout that kept me hooked and had me guessing what was going to happen, and I just wanted to keep reading. The mystery was good, but it did feel a bit predictable. I didn't really feel super surprised by the answers we got, but I did enjoy how we got there. It did end up feeling a bit rushed at the end. Everything was revealed really quickly, and then some things just kind of felt a little bit unresolved. And I think this is a standalone, and I'm kind of wishing it wasn't, just because I feel like there's more that could have been done. Like I said, it feels a little bit unfinished at the end, so I was hoping that there was more to this, but regardless, 4 stars. I definitely had a good time with it. So next I read Our Infinite Fates by Laura Steven, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. And in this one we are following Evelyn, who has lived through 1,000 lifetimes, and in every one of them she is tied to another soul called Arden. And in every lifetime, one of them has to end the other's life before their 18th birthday, but Evelyn doesn't know why, and Arden does, but Arden will not tell her. And Evelyn currently wants to stay in her current lifetime because her younger sister needs a bone marrow transplant from her, and so she wants to stick around long enough to hopefully be able to help her sister, so she is trying to avoid Arden for as long as possible. I enjoyed this one, but it did feel a little bit rushed for me. Like, I wanted more from the resolution. It was a beautiful idea, but it just kind of felt like it all happened so quickly. This story probably could have just been longer. This is a standalone fantasy, and it was short. I think it was like 350 pages. I just feel like it probably should have been a bit longer. Like, I wish we had either had just fewer, more detailed lifetimes, or just added more detail to all of the lifetimes and had a longer book, just because it felt like we were seeing a lifetime at the end every time. Like, we were just seeing the end of their life in every lifetime, so we never got to know them as well as I would have liked. Like, what I really wanted from this was to learn their backstory, and I feel like more of what this was about was finding out the why this was going on, which I also wanted to know, but I just would have liked to see more of them. But we did get a few lifetimes that had some more detail than the rest, and I did like those. And I did end up liking the characters by the end. I was kind of afraid that I wouldn't, just because, like I said, we're just kind of seeing them in the same scenario over and over again. But you do get to know them a little bit better in like their current day lifetime. So I was able to feel more connected to them. We do get some poetry in this that's like meant to be written by one of the characters about the situation. And I really liked that. I thought that was really sweet to be able to read some of that. The writing in this is really beautiful. There were some really beautiful quotes, and I definitely want to read more by this author. And I can definitely see why so many people love it, and I definitely enjoyed it. But I just wish there had been more detail to it. The next book I read was A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas, and I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I can't decide if this one or Court of Mist and Fury is my favorite. I really love both of them. I probably would pick A Court of Mist and Fury just because, I don't know, there's just something about that book that I really love. But I don't want to tell you too much about this book just because, I mean, it is the newest book in the series, so I don't want to spoil everything. But in the first book of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, we are following Feyre, who has taken on the role of like provider for her family after they end up losing everything. And one day she is out hunting in the woods, and she hunts down a wolf who ends up being a fae in disguise. And the High Lord of the court that this fae belongs to comes to her house and takes her away to his court as punishment. But as far as A Court of Silver Flames goes, I really enjoyed this one. I really liked the multi-POV we got in this one. And Nesta and Cassian are probably my favorite characters now. Cassian was already one of my favorites, but Nesta I think might be a new favorite as well. I think I liked her more than Feyre just because I just found her, she's not more likable necessarily, but I just find her more interesting to read about. And I really loved seeing her growth and healing journey. And I was glad to have some new main characters because I was just getting a little bit bored with Feyre. But I mean, I liked Feyre, but I was just ready to move on to something new. And I loved seeing some new characters that we met, some new friendships, some new found family, and also getting to see more of the characters that I already loved previously. But the overall plot of this one, the larger plot, did feel pretty similar to the previous one. But it does end up picking up and being interesting enough and different enough to where it wasn't like annoying to me, and it was able to stand out on its own. And yeah, I don't know, this could be my favorite in the series. I'm gonna have to think about it a little bit more, but either way, 5 stars. So next, I'm just gonna briefly talk about the little 50-page novella I read called The Lost Sisters by Holly Black. And it is a little novella in the Folk of the Air series. I believe it's called. The first book is The Cruel Prince. And I ended up giving this one 3 stars. There's not much to say. It's just 50 pages kind of seeing Taryn's point of view and her thought process of during what was going on in The Cruel Prince and why she kind of did the thing she did, I guess. And I don't know if this was supposed to make me like Taryn more, but it definitely did not. If anything, I dislike her even more, as well as Locke. She seems like she has absolutely no remorse for anything. Like, it felt like she was just saying, yes, I did these things, but this is why it is everyone else's fault. And it just, I don't know, it just definitely did not make me like her. But I did like seeing her POV and her thought process, just because I don't like her, but I do find her interesting to read about. And it was interesting enough, and it was short, so, you know, 3 stars is fine. It was nothing great, but I am glad that I read it. If you're going to read this series, I would recommend reading it. So next up, I read Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and I ended up giving this one 4.25 stars. I may end up bumping this one up to 4.5. I really enjoyed it. I'm kind of conflicted on what to rate it right now. But in this one, we are following Selena, who is an assassin, and she was captured and is in prison at Endovir, where people are basically sent to work in mines until they die. And then one day, the captain of the guard and the prince show up to offer her a deal where they will take her to the castle to compete in some trials to be the king's champion. And whoever wins these trials ends up being the king's champion for 4 years, I believe, and then at the end of those 4 years, they are free. I really liked this one. I liked Selena, I liked Kaol, I liked Nehemia. I don't know how to feel about Dorian after the last bit. I did really like him. I guess we'll just have to see how the series moves forward. I don't really like Kaltane, but I was intrigued by her, and I would like to see more of her and what is going on there. But the writing in this series definitely feels very different from ACOTAR. It feels younger, which makes sense because this is a YA series, and I believe the author was pretty young when she wrote this, like 17, something like that. I liked the trials when we saw them. Some of them you just kind of hear about in passing, but the ones we did see, I liked. The first half of this book was, the typical world building, character introductions. Nothing really stood out and was super exciting, but the second half was much more enjoyable. We got a bit of a mystery and some additions to the magic system, and I am definitely excited to continue on in this series. I really like this world and what we have seen of the magic so far. And this was a great winter read. It definitely talks about it being wintertime throughout the book. I was really glad that I read this when I did. So the last book I read in December, my last book of 2025, was Forget You Saw Her by Noelle W. Eiley, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. And this is like a prequel to Ask for Andrea. We kind of learn how the whole Ask for Andrea poster situation came to be, like the poster that was in the bar. But in this one, we are following a mother who gave up her daughter for adoption, and then 17 years later, she finds out that her daughter has gone missing. So we're kind of following her journey trying to figure out the truth of what happened to her daughter. And this had me intrigued right away. The pacing was really good. I really like this style of thriller where we get the victim's POV as well. We see right away what actually happened, and we're more reading to see if things are going to get figured out and if the characters are going to end up getting justice. I also like the addition of a living POV in this one. I don't think we had a living POV in Ask for Andrea. It's been a while since I read that. I could be wrong. But I did feel like this one maybe had more depth. I feel like we got to see more of the characters' family and friends just because we did have a POV of one of the family members. And I also just felt like the characters felt more fleshed out. I feel like I knew each individual character better than I did in Ask for Andrea. I think I actually preferred this one to Ask for Andrea, but I can't say that for certain. It has been quite a while since I read that one, and I did also really enjoy that. But I definitely recommend this. If you liked Ask for Andrea, I think you would like this one as well. But that is all the books I read in the month of December. Let me know in the comments down below, what did you read this month? But I had a pretty great reading month. I hope you all did too. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. And if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I hope to see you all in the next one.